What's up, everybody? This is Sarah Ripple with Ripple Effect Fitness. In this video, I'm going to cover a metabolic workout that basically is to be done at an aerobic intensity. So we're trying to keep away from spiking the heart rate or making any of this at a sprint type speed. Okay, so I consider these type of workouts to kind of be a steady grind. You shouldn't have to take long rest breaks in between the exercises within each circuit. So real important to note that, because this workout, as well as other aerobic intensity workouts, should be boosting your recovery. They should help you in general with your fitness level, but also boosting your aerobic system will help you recover from your strength work, as well as recover from in between sets during your strength work. So this is a little sequence that I put together for clients of mine. I train a couple that works out with me 3 days a week. They're in pretty decent shape. Early 40s and mid 30s respectively, but they work out with me for a half hour each time. So half-hour sessions aren't usually something that I recommend for most people, but for the right people it works. So they come in 3 days a week, like I said. Their middle workout of the week right now is a conditioning based workout. So I just went through 3 rounds of each of these 3 circuits that I'm going to explain in depth for you, a little bit in depth, and it basically boosted my recovery score 4 points. So I wasn't in the hole this morning as far as my recovery score, but it's further proof that when you do aerobic work at the right intensity, that it should help boost your recovery. So this workout for me personally took around 28 minutes. So for most of y'all, we could say this is a ballpark of a 30-minute workout. If you wanted to extend that out further, you could either do more sets of each of these sequences, or you could tack on some cyclical cardio or steady state cardio, so machine based, go for a walk run, anything like that. So what's going to happen, we're going to call this the Triumvirate. We have 3 circuits that are comprised of 3 exercises each, basically, and we did each one for three rounds. So this first circuit is going to be dragging the sled forward. Then we're going to follow that with what I call a Frankenstein walk, which is a dynamic warm-up drill. So when I put this workout together for this specific couple that I train, the husband, he has tight hamstrings and hips and calves. So typically what I've found throughout my career is that guys tend to be stiff, women tend to be needing more core work. So that's kind of a generalization there. Obviously there's, everyone's different, but what I try to do with the workout, since we're only working for 30 minutes, is I try to sneak in exercises and variations that will serve to kind of double whammy. So we'll be doing a strength exercise, but it'll also be something that will lend itself towards being a hip mobility exercise as well. Anything frontal plane, moving side to side is awesome for that. These dynamic, so before I get ahead of myself, the way that I sequence these 3 little triumvirate workouts within the triumvirate is that the first exercise is a sled drag, second exercise is a dynamic warm-up type drill, and then the third exercise is kind of a metabolic or plyo or explosive or whatever you want to call that. So we're going to do a forward sled drag for 40 yards. We followed that with what I call a Frankenstein walk for 10 yards, and then we chase that with what I call benign burpees, which essentially are non-floppy burpees. We're going just to a high plank. We're not going all the way down and having to do a push up off the floor to come up. With or without a jump, that's personal preference, and I'll show several variations here because you can do a jump back with the legs as well as a step back. So I'm going to go through each of these 3 circuits, and I'm going to go through the exercises and just kind of touch on important pointers and tweaks that y'all can make within each one. So we're going to start off with the forward sled drag. There's not really anything that technical here other than just thinking body alignment and doing this at a steady pace. So we want to use a load on the sled for all 3 of these circuits that's light to moderate. It's kind of a pain in the butt to have to add or change weight as you're going through this, because I want y'all to kind of keep this moving and not have to take long breaks, as I said earlier. So what I chose to do for myself is I put 50 pounds on my 0 sled. I think the sled itself weighs something like 30 pounds. I don't count the weight of the sled, I just count the plate weight. So I have roughly 80 pounds total, for those who care about that. In here, my turf strip is a 10-yard strip, so down and back twice will be 40 yards. and we're going to do a forward drag. So let me show y'all that real fast. Again, it's not complicated. You're literally just dragging the sled and walking forward. So you want to, not be slumping. I don't even know how you would do that and have it feel good. But I'm keeping a good plank through the body. I like to stay on the balls of my feet. Okay. Spin it around when we get to the end. And obviously, we're going to go down and back. Okay. So that's the forward drag. Now for the Frankenstein walk, again, we're going to use a 10-yard distance. Basically on this drill, this is a kind of a dynamic stretch for a lot of the posterior chain actually, but more specifically hamstrings and calves. So what's going to be important here is that you keep your leg locked out. Your body's going to want to probably bend the knee to cheat it and get more range of motion, but that's completely going against what we're trying to accomplish here. And you're not going to get anything out of it. So you want to keep the toes pulled to the shin, not point the foot, and think about kicking the leg up with the leg locked out. So there's several ways we can do this. I sprinkle in different variations, but standard variation would kind of be one leg at a time, obviously, alternating. You can kind of come up on your toes if you wish. Okay, we can also kind of add a stutter step to it. So you could swing it here and then step, go here. Easier to do with the arms down. But main thing, like I said, when you swing that leg through, we want to have the leg locked out and the toes up, okay? Also important to note that when you do these, we're not rounding forward. The goal is not to touch your toes, nor is the goal to swing the leg as high as you possibly can. Again, if that's making you bend your knee or kind of deviate from any of that, then there's no really point in doing that. It's a big, whoo, yay for you, but you're not getting anything out of it. So that's the Frankenstein walk. And then after that, we have what I've always called a benign burpee, which essentially we're taking the body from standing, we're descending to the floor, going out to a high plank, either by kicking the legs out or stepping them out, reversing that by either stepping the legs back in or kicking them back in, and then standing up. With or without a jump, that's an option, okay? I chose to add the jump. With a jump back, okay? We're going 10 of them, okay? So again, you don't have to jump, and also, if you needed to, you could step the legs, stand it up. You could add the jump to a step back. And then you could also, if you needed to, place a box or some sort of riser on the ground to elevate the upper body a little bit to decrease the intensity of that. So that's the first triumvirate, 3 exercises, sled forward drag, Frankenstein walks, and benign burpee. Now, second triumvirate. Oh, before I get to that, what I did here too, so as you go through one round of these 3 exercises, your heart rate is going to continue to creep, okay? So like I said initially, we're trying to keep this aerobic. So resting is going to kind of come into play at the end of the sequence. So what I want y'all to do for rest here is rest until your heart rate comes down to roughly 110. We could say 100 to 110, but I brought mine down to 110, and then it's time to go again. If you would rather rest for time, I'm going to give you basically a ballpark of 45 to 60 seconds, thereabouts. Everyone's different, but essentially, if you're resting until your heart rate comes down to 110, you should feel ready to go again at that point. So your heart rate's not going to be too high to where once you get started, it's going to continue to make it creep further. It's going to definitely do that throughout the workout, but we're going to be able to kind of recover enough to where when you go to do another round of the sequence, you're going to be able to put as much effort into it as necessary for the workout. Again, this isn't a sprint type intensity. We're not going balls to the wall. It's just a steady grind, as I said. Okay, so resting until heart rate, roughly 110, roughly 60-ish seconds, thereabouts. So triumvirate number 2. What we're going to do on this one is a lateral sled drag, or more specifically, kind of a crossover sled drag. We're going to go down and back for 40 yards. You're going to switch sides or switch hands halfway. Second exercise is going to be what I call a scoop. Okay, so that's another dynamic warm-up drill. And then the third exercise is going to be a skater jump. So y'all are going to do 5 on a side with that. So with the lateral sled drag, I'm going to kind of touch on a few pointers there. One main mistake I see most people make on this is that if we're going sideways, we need to be, belly button to the wall in front of you, or, through you. What I see most people do on this is turn their body so that it becomes more of a forward sled drag. I tend to see that more often than not, like through socials and stuff like that, of other trainers doing this. But stay strict, and we're going to be crossing over in front and dragging the sled so that everything's kind of perpendicular. So let me show you all what that looks like. All right, so your inside leg is going to cross over. And again, the loading we're using here is light to moderate. This drill out of the 3 is going to be the one that kind of determines the loading you're using, because it's going to be the more challenging of the 3 sled drag variations. But you don't want it so heavy that you're having to start each and every time you take a step. You're going to feel that. You should be able to get it going and keep it going. Like I said, belly button to the wall. We're not turning it into that board here. Okay? Crossing over with that inside leg. Switching hands at halfway, I would drag it back, down and back with the other side, and that would be 40 yards, okay? So, for the scoops, this is another drill that's gonna hit hamstrings and calves. Again, more posterior chain, that includes glutes, that includes low back. Posterior chain goes all the way from the plantar fascia, the underside of the foot, all the way upstream to your eyebrows, actually. So, huge kind of connective tissue kind of chain, so to speak. But yeah, so on the scoops, we're gonna go 10 yards here. What's gonna happen, again, we're gonna lock the leg out, toes are pulled to the shin, okay? And you're gonna hinge over and kind of scoop, step, step, scoop, step, step, scoop, and just kind of keep that pattern going for 10 yards. So for those of you that are tight back here, you're gonna definitely feel it. I feel these more in my calves than hamstrings. Again, everything's connected. So that's just a really good drill for that backside. Third and final exercise is skater jumps. So on this, we're gonna essentially be jumping out to the side. We're not gonna be trying to go as far as possible with each jump. I would say rein it in a little bit, and then just kind of, you can build into that as you go. So we wanna make sure that when you land, that you're able to maintain balance and kind of stick it, but then we're reversing that and reacting and jumping back to the other side. So we're essentially going side to side, using the arms as kind of a counterbalance. And that's pretty much it. So again, nice tasty frontal plane movement there. So 3 exercises, you're gonna rest until your heart rate gets down to 110 or 60-ish seconds. 3 rounds of that. And then the third and final triumvirate is going to be a reverse sled drag. We're gonna chase that with what's called an ostrich walk, which, as you guessed it, is gonna be hamstrings and calves and back, backside mobility focused drill. And then the third exercise is gonna be, I'm drawing a blank. Oh, bear crawl. And the third and final triumvirate is going to be a reverse sled drag. We're going to chase that with what's called an ostrich walk, which, as you guessed it, is going to be hamstrings and calves and backside mobility focused drill. And then the third exercise is going to be, I'm drawing a blank. Oh, bear crawl. How could I forget that? So, reverse sled drag. Again, not a lot to this one. I'm keeping the arms locked out, and I'm stepping. So to slow it down a little bit, I like to think about a deliberate step with each one, where I'm planting the ball of my foot, and I'm rolling through the foot from ball of foot to heel. Okay? Don't overthink it to where it makes you really go too slow or like messes it up, but essentially what you don't want to do is just kind of make it poo-poo looking. So we want to deliberately kind of roll through to where by the time you get halfway through there, especially the last 10 yards, you should really feel those lower quads light up, specifically like the VMO or teardrop kind of region of the thigh. So when we step back and roll through here, what happens is we get a nice little contraction of the quad with each step. So we're coming to kind of terminal knee extension on each rep. So that's a good thing. So that's a reverse sled drag. Second exercise is an ostrich walk. So what we're going to do here, we're going to step. I'll show y'all from the side. Your back foot, I want y'all to pick the heel up, okay? Just because we're kind of transitioning into the step with this forward leg. So we're going to basically take a sequence of steps where we're stepping. And if you were an ostrich with a beak, you'd be pecking the ground. So a little peck, peck with each rep, okay? Peck, peck, and coming back up. I chose to put this drill last in this workout because I felt like going in at the beginning with asking that low back to kind of go into flexion a little bit, even though we're not under load, I felt like maybe at the beginning it might be asking a little bit too much. So it worked out great. Again, that's the ostrich walk. 10 yards of that, and then third and final exercise is a bear crawl. So for my clients this morning, I gave them two options. The easier of the two options would be allowing the hips to kind of stay up and crawling across the floor that way. We went 20 yards. Okay, if y'all want to make it a little bit more strict, you're going to try to keep your back like a tabletop. And go more, I call it a quadruped crawl. Okay, head up, try to keep the head from being straight down. Look where you're trying to go. So 20 yards of the crawl variation, 3 rounds of that third triumvirate, again, resting until the heart rate comes down to 110, or ballpark of 60 seconds. So you've got 3 circuits that are comprised of 3 exercises for 3 rounds each. Should take you roughly 30 minutes. For most of y'all, that's gonna be great. If you wanted to, you could extend it out and do 3 to 5 rounds of each circuit, or you could do it as an AMRAP. Possibilities are endless, but I wanted to share that and kind of give you the trainer's slant on why I chose to do the certain exercises, why I feel it was appropriate for the clients in general that I have, but also I feel like this is a sequence that's great for pretty much anyone out there. You can tweak it up or down as with most things, that's what I love to do. So there you have it. The triumvirate. Tweak it as you wish, ask me questions, give me some suggestions, give me some feedback, and I'm going to be trying to shoot some more videos of like this that are kind of more of the insider kind of take on things. I've been doing this for a hot minute, so I have a lot to contribute, and I appreciate those of y'all out there that continue to give me feedback on YouTube and ask questions and make comments. That really is fun for me to kind of get that, because my goal is not to amass a huge following. My goal has always been to just kind of put my stuff out there, and then whoever it resonates with, awesome, I'm reaching you, which isn't the majority of people, and I'm okay with that and happy about that, actually. So I appreciate those of y'all that appreciate what I'm doing. Y'all have a great day.